Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter from the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation Raiders Today. I'm your Raider beat writer, and I'm Uncle Hondo, and it's good to be with you. Now, listen, this is a day two of NFL free agency recap. It's 8 o'clock in the East, 5 o'clock in Vegas. Obviously, anything can happen overnight, but at the time of the taping, that's why I'm telling you where everything is at. Sure, you're already aware the Raiders lost Amik Robertson to the Detroit Lions. Um, Max Crosby went out and let his friend know that he was going to miss him, that he was a dog. I laugh sometimes because the title of our article about it was Raiders lose dog Robertson. People, oh, he's not a dog. You're dumb. Well, you're calling Max Crosby dumb. That's what he said. So that's why it had quotes in it, but that doesn't matter. I just thought that was kind of funny. And here's what's going on. As you know, I've been telling you for a while now that the Raiders were investigating every way of making the team better and that they had looked at a couple of trades. And so I have said each time, nothing imminent, but they're looking at that. Now, there's a couple things that I need you to be aware of. First of all, nothing imminent, but here is where those directions are headed. They've looked at several positions, and you have to gauge interest. You have to find out costs. So as they go through the process, okay, we know we can go sign free agent X for however much money. Here's a guy maybe we like a little bit better or about the same, but his contract would be better for us. Would we be willing to give a pick or a player? So those are going on. I was told by two different people today, talking about the Raiders and Tom Telesco. Now, at the time of this taping, the Raiders hadn't done anything, come to terms that we're aware of with anyone today, but that does not mean that they're being not being active and that they're not still pursuing people. I want to remind you, leading up to free agency, we reminded you that Tom Telesco was going to be frugal, but not cheap. So let me give a couple examples. The Raiders had an offer on the table for, excuse me, Andre Sims and Jermaine Illuminor. There was interest in retaining both. However, as they started to get a feel for it, there was going to be a large market for Andre Sims. I personally know of 5 teams that had interest in Andre Sims. Andre James, excuse me. Andre Sims is another friend of mine, was a wide receiver. Andre James. And so that's when they looked and said, wow, that much interest. Are we evaluating him correctly and understanding of the market? Okay, when they found out, yeah, we are, boom, they cut the deal and made the deal. They were frugal. They paid him what he was worth. Jermaine Illuminor, they made a very solid offer that they didn't believe anyone was going to pay significantly over. In fact, there was a feel that he would probably be coming back. Not anything for certain, just a good feel about it. However, Carmen Brasillo, who he and him and Carmen have a great relationship, and the Giants were able to pay what the Raiders perceived as just, there's one team willing to pay that, and that's too high. So they didn't re-sign Illuminor. Again, being frugal, but not being cheap. They certainly weren't cheap. They when they realized that there was a broad market for Andre James, all right, you know what? Maybe we need to reevaluate this and double check. So the Raiders are doing that. There are some offers out there that are on the table, and some guys are looking to see what's the market going to bear. There's some guys that they've got eyes on, that the price right now is probably what they want, a little too high. But the fact that those players haven't signed yet means at some point there'll be diminished expectations. Could the Raiders have signed more people at this point? Absolutely, they could have, but it wouldn't have been a salary cap. It wouldn't have been salary cap discipline. And I want to warn you, Saw a lot on social media today. We're not doing anything. What's going on? Why'd we quit? Stop. I've been telling you for weeks, free agency goes in motion. Okay, you know what? There's the first few signings, everybody gets excited. Then it slows down a little bit. Then there'll be a few more. There's going to be some a little bit later in the process. There are some guys that are like, hey, I'm just going to wait till training camp, till somebody gets hurt. Then my price, then I'll get my price. Some guys bet on themselves. Marcus Peters did that last year. The Raiders were interested. His price was too high. They go through OTAs, go through mini camps. They weren't real happy with the cornerback situation, and they had to go meet his price. That happens. So don't mistake a lack of reports of signings as a lack of effort. And also don't report a lack of signings as a bad day. Sometimes you avoid a bad deal and your franchise is better for it. So those are really some key points. The Raiders were very active today, very involved today. I know that they reached out to, whether it's players, agents, or teams, to several. They were extremely active, and they're monitoring everything. They got their eyes on the pulse, and they know what they want. The free agency is not done. There's going to be more signings. So you can be content with that. There may be some signings that you're like, wow, that's a pretty big signing. And then there may be some that you're like, what? Just be patient with the process. I know nobody wants to be patient, but we're sitting here in mid-March, April, May, June, July, August. We're literally 5 months from training camp, 6 months from the season. So let the process play out. Tom Telesco is doing exactly what he needs to do. He isn't trying to have everybody in Raider Nation love him by overpaying and having 3 or 4 free agents sitting here right now. He's not doing that. He's also not going and getting cheaper end guys when there could be better players available. When you know those cheaper end guys may be there, hey, let's wait on some of these better players. Let's see if some expectations come down for a minute. There may be a defensive tackle that wants to get paid like Christian Wilkins, but he's not Christian Wilkins. Doesn't mean he's not a dog. Doesn't mean he's not a good player. But maybe as reality comes down a little bit. I told you getting ready for preseason, for free agency, there were a lot of players that wanted to come play for AP. So you may say, if there was a lot, how come we only have one signing? Well, first of all, they may want to come here, but the dollars have to be right. The dollars have to match. So it's now a matter of, and then it has to be, well, okay, so I'm totally making this point up. Okay, let's say there's a punter who wants to come play for AP. Well, the Raiders aren't moving off of in any way AJ Cole. So although they want to come, it doesn't mean it's a fit for a Raider. Okay, maybe somebody wants to come at kicker. Well, they're not getting Daniel Carlson. The point is that it's a chess match and it's a big, huge puzzle. And so Telesco's trying to put the puzzle together. Okay, it's looking at, is this guy worth this money? Or do we project we're going to be able to pick a guy in the draft who, even though he's going to have a rookie contract, we're going to have him under contract for several years and it's cheaper money. That's what's going on right now. As they're putting their draft board together and then looking, okay, so at this pick, do we feel like we have a shot at getting a guy here? Yes. Okay, then maybe we don't need that free agent because we really like the 3 or 4 options we may get there. So that's where they're at right now. A lot of work is being done, and they are aggressive, but being very disciplined with their salary cap. Now, when you're a fan and you just want players signed, that's frustrating. But you can be thankful you're not the Bills and thankful that you're not Los Angeles Bulls. Be grateful you're not Dallas right now, who are all in salary cap hell. Dave Ziegler gets you out of that, and Tom Telesco ain't taking you back into it. That's very smart leadership. And again, I know from a fan perspective, that does not necessarily fly with what you want to hear. I get it. I get it. I understand it. And I'm not faulting you for it. I'm just trying to bring you the reality of the situation. There are some trades that they could pull the trigger now if the trade came about. And then there'd be some trades that probably come a little bit down the road. There's a potential of one possible trade that a team is either going to have to address the position in free agency or in the draft. So there could be some trades after the draft or during the draft. So there's a lot going on. And in that, you want to, and I understand that that sounds like a lot of ambiguity. I understand that. And I can also understand if that frustrates you. I'm not trying to minimize that. But that is the reality of the situation. I think they're close on one or maybe two people, but close doesn't get a deal done. Yesterday, Josh Jacobs goes and signs with the Packers. Okay. I had heard the Ravens were making a move, but I can tell you early within 24 hours of him deciding to go with Green Bay, I know there were some in the building who were optimistic a deal was going to get done. So things just move and turn, and another team may call and just say to an agent, all right, what's the deal? I don't want to sit here and negotiate all day. Let's get it done. Give me a number, done, over. So that's where everything is right now. And you're not going to see the Raiders jumping into impulse buying. You know, an agent calls, hey, Tom, I got three other teams offering my player. I know you want him. He wants to be a Raider. You know, they know what their idea is. When they got a sense of how the market was changing, they stepped up and paid Andre. And that's where they're at. So I want to reiterate, I know that's not super exciting as a fan. You want to read, they just signed whoever. I understand that. But the reality is sometimes when not signing a deal, because you pull back and say, okay, listen, the way this draft is going to fall out, maybe that free agent isn't the best one. Let's go pick somebody. Now, I know that in free agency, they've looked at corner and safety. I know that. I know that they've looked at trades on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I'm not going to give any specific position, but I know that they've done that as well. But I know in free agency, they've looked at a lot. So it's not just those two. But man, I would be a little surprised in the free agent period if we don't see maybe a corner and a safety. But again, as that free agency goes. So let me give you a quick example. A couple of years ago, the Raiders were targeting a free agent. And this would have been 22. They were targeting a free agent. And then several teams signed free agents at that position. So this guy's price kept going up. And the Raiders considered paying the guy's price to get him. But then they realized, wait a minute, everybody's addressing this position with free agents. His price is going up. And because those guys have already addressed that position, we think we can get a guy at that position cheaper. So rather than paying the money for a free agent they like, they held back and they went and made a draft pick. Again, very smart. Very, very smart of the Raiders. And here's the other thing that I want to talk about. And there's a bunch of them. I'm only going to mention two. Look at how Malcolm Kuntz is coming. Okay. If he continues that, he is lining himself up for Big Jack, and the Raiders will re-sign him. So they've got to be salary cap disciplined to be able to pay him. Dylan Parham is going to be coming up on a new deal eventually. You're going to have to pay that guy. So the discipline allows you down the road to be able to sign your guys to long-term deals, to take care of your guys on long-term deals as well. So again, while it may not be sexy, you may not be accumulating a ton of players right now, They could be out there overpaying, or they could be out there paying for guys just to be able to say, look how aggressive we are, but they're not players that they think are good enough to be Raiders. So all of that right now is going through the process. And there's a lot of evaluating and a ton of talking, working on stuff. There's a couple of guys. Now, remember, just like you as fans get nervous, players get nervous too. All of a sudden, they're sitting there and they're calling their agent, hey, how come all these other guys are signing deals and I'm not? Okay, maybe we need to not want so much money, or hey, let's go back and see if the Raiders are interested in making another offer. It's a cat and mouse game. So I'm just challenging you, not telling you what to do, but I'm challenging you right now to trust this process. If Kuntz continues to play the way he is, you're going to be grateful they've been disciplined next year when they sign him to a longer term deal. Dylan Parham, the same way. And a few other guys. So just the Raiders are active, very active. They're looking at every angle. And do I think, I know there are some deals out there that if guys take them, they would be done. And good signings. I would venture to say this. Dave Ziegler was very disciplined. Now, his first year gets Devontae and gets Chandler and all that kind of stuff, but especially you saw last year, but he was still very disciplined with his salary cap. I get it, and I understand where people are. But this process is good for the Raiders. And what happened is for many years, the Raiders would go out and either have salary cap issues or overspend. I mean, I want you to just think about it. Most of you have been Raider fans longer than the 5 years I've covered them. How many free agent signings that just, okay, but they won press conferences, but I can think of several. I can think of 3 or 4 just since I've been covering the team. So be thankful that isn't the way, that isn't the Raider way. The Raider way is discipline on the field, no penalties, discipline with the salary cap. It's, hey, we want to go after better players. Yes, we could have gone signed some cheap guys that have a lot of warts, but let's wait a little bit. We know they'll be there. Let's wait a little bit and see if the market comes down. Maybe a player has a wife in his ear. Hey, babe, come on, get that next contract. Maybe his wife's like, listen, I know you're holding out wanting to go to XYZ franchise, but it's nice in Vegas. Great restaurants, no state income tax. Weather's fantastic. Get that deal done. Let's go. So, again, the recap, Raiders have been active. They have explored trades, nothing imminent. There are some offers out there that could be accepted at any moment, but the Raiders are watching how it goes. And again, I want to say this again. I want to go back and remind you, a couple of years ago, there was a position in a specific player the Raiders wanted. And he wanted more money than Ziegler was willing to pay. Other teams filled that same position with some other guys. And then his price went up because I think he was the last one of any value on the market. Raiders pulled back, went and made a really good draft choice, a very good draft choice. Well, yeah, a very good draft choice. And so there's a lot that goes into this right now, and they're balancing and juggling a bunch of balls, but I'm telling you, not because I'm echoing the company line, which it's not my company, the Raiders, but I'm echoing it because it's what I'm hearing from around the league, that they're very active. So again, at any moment, a deal could get done, but it all depends on the other people, some of them lowering expectations, or maybe the Raiders saying, wow, I misjudged the market a little bit and getting a deal done. But overall, not cheap, but frugal. And remember this, when they re-sign and extend their players, when they do that, Remember back to these days when it was frustrating because everybody else was making a move, but you didn't think the Raiders were. I remind you of the year that they signed Devontae. A year before he came, I started talking about Devontae to the Raiders. And after one day of free agency, people were screaming, the house is on fire, the Raiders are doing nothing. I just said, take a break. You're going to be all right. And what happened? Bam, they got Devontae. Now, there's only one Devontae, but there are deals out there. The Raiders are active. And I would tell you, if I felt there is zero reason for any Raider to be panicking tonight. Things are going well for you. And I think you should be impressed with how they're approaching this. And they're approaching it the right way. I really appreciate y'all. Follow us on IG at Hondo SR, X formerly known as Twitter, when you go to at Hondo Carpenter and go to si.com/NFL/Raiders. Greatly appreciate you guys. Thanks for all that you do. Have a great day and God bless you.